He's done this a million times. I love that. He said,
lipstick on the cup. I'm going to get a photograph of that.
That's great. That's, yeah.
She leaves it everywhere. So, yeah.
It is like prostitute red, that isn't it?
It's just your colour.
Like harlot red.
Harlot red. I don't think Rimmel are going to bring out prostitute red.
I think they should, to be fair. I'll buy it.
Oh dear.
I do like the harlot red kind of.
Harlot scarlet. Harlot scarlet. See?
Oh, it's diverse.
Just remember I've said that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can trademark that.
You know what it is?
Prostitute red.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I wasn't sure where to start because obviously we've done a storyline with yourself.
Yes.
Coleen and Karen, you were in the back kind of overhearing and listening to this. How many times have you heard the story? Have you heard the story a lot of times? Because you've done a load of TV as well, haven't you?
Yes, heard it a lot. I mean, sometimes forget some of it and then I get shocked when I hear it because... Oh, God, that was my stomach, sorry. It likes to be
just agreeing. It was agreeing with you, right?
Well, I was growling. But, we know the story intimately, obviously, having lived it, but it still shocks at times. You think, when other people get shocked by it as well, you think that, well, it's not shocking because it's just our lives, but actually it is, and sometimes you forget.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's... I mean, Alice said, what's the story this morning? I tried to tell him, like, really, I'm going to absolutely butcher it, and you need to kind of hear it in its full entirety to kind of understand it. Because you, obviously, I was constantly going to Colin, so when did it turn? What happened next? I was, like, intrigued to know when the kind of, all the wheels fell off with the whole story.
Yeah.
But you have to listen to the whole thing to get to that point to understand the intent and how you believe in the guy was sort of... I was like, I like him. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Don't tell me too much.
Yeah.
Everybody...
Don't tell me.
But
I deliberately, right, whenever Dan does a storyline, if we know you guys are coming on the podcast, I don't research anything, so I don't know anything about the story.
Oh, right, you're in for a roller
Dan's
coaster
told
then.
me, and I try to block it off so I get a chance to hear it myself.
It's quite a story, yeah. It's quite an ordeal.
because it's obviously for people listening to this now, they won't have a clue what the story is. So, can you synopsize the story?
Ooh,
I know
it's hard, isn't it?
Is a hard one. Yeah.
I met a guy who seemed a perfect gentleman back in 2014. Everyone loved him. He was a fireman, all-round good guy, except he wasn't. Everything he said and everything he did was a lie from the get-go. But he was so manipulating and calculating. And the lengths he went to, the police said they'd never seen anything like it before. And in fact, the prosecuting detective in the case said Coronation Street would have chucked it out as a script because it'd be like, that's too outlandish.
Yeah.
Nobody will believe that. But it happened. It was my life. And I'm here to talk about it.
And for how long did that last?
2.5 years. So it wasn't... I mean, everybody's fascinated with romance fraud and true crime. I mean, I am. I love true crime. But it's because it's such an unusual story. It's not... It wasn't like I was a mark and I had money and he came in and he conned me and he took my money. It wasn't financially based. That wasn't... Ultimately, yeah, he did con people out of money, but only to keep his lie going. It was it was almost like... One morning he got up and thought, I'm just going to become someone else. And the lengths he went to actually get people to back up everything he said. And so you would never question anything because you'd meet his friends or you'd speak to his family. But we didn't realise those people were either lying or he paid them maybe, we don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I've already...
Because, well, the thing is... You said to me, if he just did this in normal life, he'd be quite successful because in his alter ego, he was quite a successful person and everybody loved him. And also, you were quite successful in business as well. Because Karen, I mean, you were brought into it as well and you invested some money, didn't you?
I did. I think the thing with James was he was one of those guys that as soon as he went in a room, he just radiated this energy that used to attract people. And he was always the biggest character in the room. He was so charismatic. And everyone loved him. And he always made situations better. Sort of person that everyone wanted to be sitting next to. But when we learned more about who he actually was in real life, it was the polar opposite. So his real person was a quiet, unassuming guy that everyone instantly forgettable. But as James, he was this amazing chap. I mean, he'd been in our lives a long time before I invested. And, you know, at that point, Coleen had Charlie. So,
Yeah.
you know, we had my nephew. And, I mean, in total, in the court documents, it was £60,000 I lost, which I invested. But actually, it was nearing the 100,000 with everything that happened.
Yeah.
But it's not like I was this stupid, naive woman that just gave all my money away. Yeah. He had so much documentation, so many contracts, so many professionals that he'd hired to pretend to be people. It wasn't just me. There was a lot of really successful charities and businesses that were scammed out of a lot of money as well.
Yeah.
It was just the levels he went to and the level of detail. It was, if he'd used that for good, he could have conquered the world.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he didn't.
So when did you first see the red flags, and when did it all start to unravel?
I mean,
'Cause we
now-
could talk about this for hours. I could already tell.
The thing
But
is, for
I
me,
can't leave it hanging because I need to know.
I know, but for me, this is like, if you watch the storyline, this is like the behind the scenes, you know, Bake Off at the end when you're like sitting on the table and going like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm treating this like this because there's so many questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm honest now, because this was back in 2014 and you didn't have the terminology you do today, there wasn't red flags and love bombing and gaslighting, all the things we talk about. And actually online dating wasn't as widely used and stuff, so people didn't have these skills, maybe, if you like,
but
to recognise stuff.
Anyway,
but I was cautious. Yeah. I mean, to the point when we unravelled what he was doing and he ran off, people didn't believe us. Mm-hmm. So this is how convincing the man was. We would say he's done A, B, C and D. They go, oh no, he wouldn't do that. Oh no. And I would get feedback from people that, oh, well, you must have had an affair. You're lying. You're trying to put the blame on him. Mm-hmm. Because, no.
People thought we were batshit bonkers.
Yeah, it's just, oh no, James is a good guy. Everyone loves James. He wouldn't do that. Until the phone calls didn't get returned and the messages, and suddenly it was like, oh, maybe he's not that good a guy.
Yeah. Because sorry.
No, I just wanted to. But what was your moment? Like, was there a moment in time when you just went, hold on a minute, something's not quite right here?
That was me.
That was you that started it off.
Wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. I had a lot of rental properties at the time, which unfortunately, because of everything that's happened, I've lost now, and because I was forced into bankruptcy through everything. But at the time, he was helping to look after those as well, and he was installing boilers for me, and he was producing all the paperwork to show they'd been done, and there was just a few things because the wedding had been cancelled and then another wedding. And although we'd met different people and we'd seen messages and photographs, there was people that things kept getting cancelled and there was just a few things.
He always had really good
He had really good reasons, but I just had this, I don't know, like...
You said it was in the middle of the night. You'd wake up when you have a niggle in the middle of the night.
It was all my money. It was everything I owned. I was investing into him. And I just wanted to do a spot check on one of the properties and check on this new boiler. So I got in touch with the tenant and said, look, I'm not giving you 24 hours. Is it okay if I come round? Yeah, went round. Had a look at this boiler. It was very dusty. And I thought, well, that's not been installed in the last 3 weeks. And when I phoned up, that type of boiler hadn't been made in years. And he'd falsified all these documents, which to me was sickening because I thought he was putting families at risk there. There was CP12s. It was another level. He could have killed people, which ultimately would have come back on me. So there was that. And on the back of that, I thought, shit, well, if he's lied about that, what else has he lied about? And that's when we got in touch with Wynyard Hall and found out that none of the weddings had ever been booked. Went through to Wynyard Hall, met with the chap there, and everything. He used to have emails with all the the menu choices for the wedding that we were picking. And it would go straight through to Wynyard Hall's actual website.
It was so convoluted.
Technology was so clever.
Yeah. So you would click on it, it would take you through to the proper Wynyard Hall. But they never heard it was Malcolm Mills, wasn't it?
I'm still gutted I never got that confit of duck, I tell you.
I mean, we did.
I'm sure we could arrange a confit duck.
We'd had all the price lists, all the arrangements of the floral displays, everything. You know, so many emails.
Was it even a wedding planner?
Donna, the wedding planner,
the wedding planner.
He was just always in between those relationships, so you never got a chance to speak to Donna.
Oh no, I met Donna. I met plenty. It's not. I'm not a naive person. It wasn't that he was telling me about these people, and I met people.
The mum and
Donna.
Everything.
Yeah, I met his mum.
They were just all.
His mum wasn't. His mum wasn't. I met his mum. I had messages and presents from his mum. They were all fake and Facebook messages and things like that. He'd falsified all those, but I actually met her because I was pushing to meet her. Went to a house and there was an emergency and we were in and out of that house in 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, if she'd have just said, oh, Greg, go get me something from the kitchen, I'd be like, why is she calling you Greg? Your name's James. But
So he
it's
just
like
managed that situation.
he must have been on absolute
His
pins the
arse
whole
will have
time.
been nipping. It will have been.
And
How far was that into this story when you went to the mum's house?
well, it was after Charlie, so it was probably about 3 or 4 months before the end. So, I mean, we've been together quite a long time, but his mum supposedly lived in the south of France, and then she got breast cancer when she was due to come. Oh, these were all lies. He liked to use cancer as an excuse.
He was very lucky, though, because it was at the time there was that terrorist attack on Rue d'Anglais in Paris, and she was due to come over then, and because she was so traumatised by that, because she'd been in the local vicinity, she couldn't travel, which just played straight into his narrative. And then the cancer, he would always trot out cancer as a reason. And as someone who's had cancer twice, I think that's despicable.
It was.
You don't. Everyone's touched by cancer, whether they've had it themselves or they know someone who has. You don't use that to facilitate your lies and your cheating.
I guess when you're a manipulator, though, it's probably one of the sharpest tools you can
pull out.
pull
No one's going to question it.
Yeah.
I mean, he himself said he'd got suspected testicular cancer. That was one of his reasons to cancel our first wedding. But then I heard him on the phone to the doctor. You heard him, actually?
I heard him on the phone to the consultant. I could hear the male voice, and I could actually hear... It was when we were at that farm that day, and I could actually hear snippets of the conversation. So that was some guy who was either a mate of his, just why you'd go along with that, I don't know. Or he's actually... The police felt he may have been hiring actors
they just
to just pretend to be people. Because we met...
But even the ethics of that, like, if there were actors, how did he brief them, and what did they think about what they were doing?
Along with this story,
I suppose if you've got your drama degree and you outside a takeaway dressed as a chicken, maybe it seems like a good alternative.
Well, that's it. The police said they had so much evidence when it came to it that to then start looking into who these people were. I mean, it took years to get to court. It was so convoluted, but it would have they've still been investigating now, I think, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I guess scamming people, though, has got layers, isn't it? So you don't know what scam was going on, even if they were actors, and what they were told, and how they've been pulled into that story.
Yeah.
When he met me, he was quite seemed to be quite affluent, didn't he? And he was always very generous with his money, but he didn't have any funds coming in. So you've got to question, where did that money come from? Has he done this before?
Well, even to the fact he was going to Starbucks 4 times a day. I mean, you need a second mortgage to do that, really.
Yeah.
So
Now it's straight away.
It was.
Hold on.
And cinema.
We should have
We just thought he was quite wealthy.
Yeah, well, that's the
But he didn't have the trappings of being wealthy, but that was because he was a very down-to-earth, humble guy.
From Sunderland, down-to-earth guy, doing
He's
all
from
right.
Sunderland,
But from
was he?
Sunderland. Yeah.
And his whole kind of persona was he was like a boiler fitter, or what was he? Like a handyman or something? Or?
No. He just he was a fireman.
He was a fireman.
But so he started by going around doing checks of houses and like checking like the fire regs and everything, and then he just knew somebody that he could help me with my boiler installation. I was giving him more and more work, and then he knew people that could do general DIY around the house, because I was working full time at the time. It just was a godsend, and I trusted him.
And he was
But wasn't
gonna be
getting
But
any
is that
work.
interesting though? So going back to the fireman thing though,
Yeah.
do you think there's a natural default in your brain where you think, well, he's a fireman, like he's a trusted?
I think that in some ways yes, some ways no. You always think, if you start going out with a fireman, you think, well, that's sort of the swoony sort of job men have, isn't it? It's like the hero. And because you had met on a dating site, although you met in person straight away, and he was who he said in pictures and everything, it was just his knowledge of the job was so incredible, wasn't it? Because his father had been a fireman, and he was so knowledgeable about
It was brought up around fire stations.
But he bought the suit on eBay.
Yeah, well, our actual first date, he remembered, because he said he worked for Darlington. He was in White Watch, and he was a like not the top bloke, but the one below that, shift manager or whatever, and. Because it was Darlington, he could tell me about all fire regs around Darlington and what nightclubs you shouldn't go to because I haven't got the correct. And he actually would talk about it and all the escapades him and his mates got up to at work, and how he saved a little boy from a fire and hurt his back in the process. And he gave me a thank you card from this little boy, which I displayed. But it turns out it's from his son for fixing his computer, this card. But he showed me texts from the little boy's parents, thank you texts, and he told me he was going to the little boy's school because it was Hero Day and he'd been asked to speak at the school, and he had his fireman's outfit as well, which it turned out later we found out he bought off an ex-fireman from eBay.
To spice up his love life.
With his actual wife. So your mind's blown now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the fact is,
I'm not laughing out of like humour. It's just wild.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's what. Can you see why they're saying that? Coronation
And that's
Street is
before
just
you even get
bonkers.
into the fake and the vasectomy bit, which is just bonkers.
Oh yeah, that's to come.
But also being a fireman, you can say, I'm working shifts. So
that's what I meant. It covers quite a lot of things, doesn't it?
It does cover quite a lot of ground.
But you'd hear him having arguments. When Colin was pregnant with Charlie, he gave me a lift to work one day, and his phone rang, he answered, and he went, it's the shift manager, and he was trying to get him to do another shift. And he was arguing with this guy on the phone and said, no, Colin needs me because she was on bed rest at the time, weren't you? And I could hear these conversations going on, but we've never known who these people were. But everything he said was backed up by so much evidence.
I had to fill in all these details because I was going to be his, in case of emergency, contact, because like his next of kin. And then I would get emails and messages from the fire service, and he was obviously just making all these up and sending them from. He must have had God knows how many fake email addresses and fake Facebook accounts and
the effort,
mobile phones.
Effort to do that.
That's what I mean.
We always like to think it's a bit like one of these dramas where you see, where they've got all the pictures and they've got all the string between the different scenarios. So he must have been so organised to have done everything.
I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it. And to lie as much as well, because if you tell the truth, it's easy because you don't have to remember anything. You just tell the truth. But if you lie, you've got to remember the lies and who you've lied to. And he was bloody good at it.
It's where it starts as well. Trying to get into the psychology of a person like that. Yeah. It's like when it started, why did it start, and did it start off as a little bit of fun, or do you know where I'm coming from? Like, what was his disposition to take him down that route, and at what point in his own head did he think, I've gone too far now?
As a kid, has he done this, like made up characters and all this kind of thing? Because you mentioned as well, when you called his mum after you found out who his mum was. I think via his ex-wife on Facebook or something like that.
I had a phone number for his mum because she used to correspond with me. We never spoke on it, but we used to have messages. But then I'd met her anyway, so it was fine. So when he run off, I was messaging his mum, didn't get any response. Ringing the number, didn't get any response. So he said that she didn't have an active Facebook account for herself, but I actually found one. So I messaged on Messenger and just said, I can't get through on the number I've got for you. And she went, that's not my number. I don't know whose number that is. Gave me a number. I rang her up, and the first thing I said to her, so she's, because we'd met, and then, we got on, and we got, got her grandson. And she said, oh, how are you, Colin? Lovely to hear from you. And I just said, before we go any further, can I just ask you what your son's called? So she said, well, he's called Greg. I went, Greg Wilson. I went, why are you asking? That's a weird question to ask. And I went, because I know him as James Scott. I've never heard of Greg Wilson. And she just turned to her husband and said, oh my God, he's done it again. But to this day, I don't know what he'd done again or to what lengths he'd done again.
I'm intrigued. What is that?
Does that just mean he's been lying again?
And he had an ex-wife as well?
No, we had a current wife.
Yeah,
He was leading
wife.
a double life. He was going, this was how his shifts worked in the fire service. So he told her he'd got a job working nights and working away, and then he would send her false emails from his employer, and she was getting the same sort of guff that I was getting. And then when he was with her, this is when he was working his night shifts and what have you. But it was cruel because you've got somebody that's in quite a dangerous job, really. So I would worry. And if he was messaging me and he went quiet, he would always send me a little emoji off a car if he was going to a road traffic accident, or a fire engine if it was a fire, just so I'd know he'd go, I wouldn't hear from him for a while because he was busy saving lives. And then he'd message when it was all sorted. Well, he must have been sat at home with his missus thinking, I just want a peaceful night, and just sent me this. But then, of course, I'm all stewed up all night thinking, I hope he's all right. And sometimes he would leave it a long time to get back in touch, almost like he knew that I'd be there worrying, and maybe got a kick out that I don't know.
That's control, isn't it?
Yeah, it's control.
Definitely got to,
because he would send, Colin would phone me, because we're very close and we talk all the time, and she'd phone me on a night and she'd say, well, he sent me this message at 8 o'clock with a flame on it, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Is he dead? What's happened to him? Yeah. And obviously he was with his wife, but he was choosing to actually put her through hell, thinking he was burnt to a crisp at this fire. And it was just vile, actually. But you were working full time then as well, and you were never sleeping when things like that happened.
Yeah. And I wonder if the lies he was telling you, though, were mirrored back at his wife in terms of that persona.
I mean, she was with him from very young, so she knew his personality and she knew what he was really like, more so than I will have done. But we have spoken.
I was going to say, have you ever spoken to his wife?
Yeah, we have spoken on the phone quite at length, and she was a victim as well. I mean, she was with, like I said, I think he'd manipulated her a great deal, and she knew about the flaws in his character, but she did forgive a lot because they had children together and all that. But it got to the end that she has divorced him now when she's moved on. But yeah, he was telling her a pack of lies as well.
But when he was just to throw another one in the mix, but when he was arrested, another partner of his saw him on the news. Is that right?
No, it was originally when he was arrested. He was engaged to another lady, so he ran off on what would have been our wedding day, but it could have never been our wedding day because he was still married to someone else, hence why he had to postpone 2 weddings, one because of cancer and the second time because his daughters couldn't come from overseas for the wedding, but he could never get married because he was already married.
And it was the wrong name.
Yeah, and obviously he wasn't James Scott, it was Greg Wilson. He keeping up with it.
Yeah, I'm doing the thing, I'm putting the pins in the thing, tying bits of string across the...
Isn't it?
So,
It is. Like 7.
So it
Do it on there, look.
It took, I think, 7 months for them to actually bowl up at the house he was living in to arrest him. And when they did, he was with a new girl who he'd met within the 7 months. They'd got engaged, told her a whole pack of lies. He was working, was it the SAS or something like that?
He was working undercover in some sort of military ops.
Yeah.
And he would come back black and
very
blue
hush important
with
job.
broken arms. But we don't know if that was faked or whether someone had actually beaten him up and broken his arm, because he did fake a lot of injuries for different times.
They were going to get married. They were having these posh holidays. He was buying a house with her. All the same kind of things that we were doing, and he just moved straight on to somebody else.
And he was sustaining that by doing exactly what he did to you. He was extorting money from people, basically.
Yeah, he was extorting.
When he ran off, the police seized his bank accounts. He had no money, so that's why it wasn't a financial... It was a financial crime, but not to like steal an amount of money. Exactly.
It's not going on.
He was using
that was secondary to what he was doing.
It was just to keep his lies going, to facilitate his lies. He needed some income.
He just wanted to be James Scott because James Scott was this amazing guy that everyone loved, and that wasn't who he was at all. And he just had to keep that going. And I think the thought of losing that was terrifying to him. And that's why he continued to do it with the next partner. And even when he was in prison and he was sentenced, we got a message that night from a woman who believed she was engaged to him. Yeah. And he was taken to Dubai the following week, and that's when he was in prison.
But the man is so manipulated. When he was with this new partner, and he told her lies about me. He'd actually said that he'd shown her pictures of me and our son Charlie, and said, "Oh, this is a guy that I used to, one of my mates that died. So I adopted the little boy in honour of my mate that died, and he's called Charlie, and this is his wife, Coleen, who I'm good friends with, and we'll all have to meet up, and you'll have to meet Charlie." So he was actually telling his new partner all about me, but twisting it to lie to make out that I was married to one of his mates, and Charlie wasn't his biological son. He just adopted him because he was a really good bloke.
Do you think that might have been him trying to work his way towards some kind of truth in his head?
God knows. I don't know. But she became aware of everything he'd done to me. The police told her everything. And I spoke to her at length, and we formed a friendship. But she put in a statement to the police about what he'd done to her, and then she withdrew it. And as far as I'm aware, all these years later, she's still with him now, even though on this day of his sentencing, another woman put the news on that night, and that's her boyfriend on telly going down for 6 years. And she was supposed to be engaged and going to Dubai, but this was another woman. So...
And then within the last week, he's been spotted by a reader on a first date.
Well, it looked like a first date. I was contacted by someone and said they'd seen him in Starbucks. Likes a Starbucks. That's where we had our first date.
That's his MO, that is.
Yeah, and it looked like he might have been on a first date. Yeah. So this guy who saw him just went up and filled this poor girl in and just says,
like, run for the hills.
Yeah, you can get yourself off. He's a con man.
But he should be on some kind of register. And
so that's what I mean. So what happened? Well, you got arrested. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then what happened?
It took then another 2.5 years to actually get... It was in lockdown that he got sentenced.
The police said you'll never get any money back. So basically, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Because you can't do this and get away with it. He needs to be brought to account, and he needs to not do this to anyone else. Mm-hmm. So we were a nice family, we're lovely people, but we've also... he thought we were pushover, and we would just, when it all happened, we found out, we would go and lick our wounds and go quietly. It was never going to happen because we're decent people and we're all about honesty and decency. Yeah. So you're not doing that to us.
We wanted to make him accountable, and we wanted to make sure if we could stop him to doing it to somebody else. I mean, obviously he is still doing stuff. We know that.
It's a lot harder
But it will
for
be a
him.
lot harder
Yeah.
for him. You just have to Google his name, look at his picture, see a book out somewhere. And obviously it works because somebody approached him last week and recognised him. So it is helping.
How long was he sentenced for then?
6 years.
And so, but he's out now.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get the time.
served half the
Great,
sentence.
yeah.
So he's out.
Yeah.
I think his licence will probably just finish now, maybe.
Well, there's a lifetime ban
Yeah.
against contacting Coleen or I.
Yeah, so like a junction against getting in contact with
It's
them.
kind of do some kind of like a crime watch call out on the podcast.
Yeah, well, you saw his picture from
It's
the
shocking.
book.
Honestly, I can't.
Yeah.
Complicated one, right? So it's not easy telling your friends the truth, right? Or if you're like you said, you had like wake up in the middle of the night moments.
Yeah, I did.
Like, how did you broach that? How did that happen? How did you broach the conversation to say,
it was-
I don't think something's right
It was
here?
really
upset there.
Because, you know, it's hard to do it even, like, with close friends, isn't it? Like,
You
it's
feel
just-
a bit of an idiot as
boyfriend
well.
liar,
You do.
yeah.
You feel a bit of an idiot. But all our friends loved him, so they were. The stupid thing is now we can look at it now and laugh about it because it's a lot of years have passed. But at the time, he was such an integral part of our family. He was a linchpin, and any problem you had, James would sort it, and he was the hero of the hour.
But he was creating most of
Most
them,
often, he was
yeah.
creating the problems to sort them, which we're now aware of.
Lighting the fires, putting
Yeah,
them out, isn't he?
yeah, kind
That's
of.
Yeah.
And then, so we actually it felt because suddenly James Scott didn't exist, we were now left with the knowledge that this man's actually Greg Wilson. We grieved James Scott.
It was like a
Yeah,
bereavement.
it was.
Yeah, I can understand
when
that.
it actually happened, we missed him terribly, and it was like a bereavement. It was like this person we loved was dead. That lasted 2 weeks max, and then we bloody hated him.
And,
But there was that grieving period,
Yeah.
wasn't there? But when you're saying about finding out, that was actually you were going away down to, I think, was it Scarborough for the day?
What, the day that they actually all
So
unravelled?
when I found out about the boilers, found out that the weddings had never been booked, Coleen was actually going away, and I thought, he can't know that I know because he's going to do a runner. Because I knew deep down all my
Yeah.
money had gone at that point. I was desperately hoping it hadn't, but I thought, no, he's God only knows what he's done. So I phoned you and said, Coleen, you need to not go away. You need to get someone. I need to talk to you, but do not let him know that there's something wrong. So you actually went to Malmaison, didn't you, in
we
Newcastle?
decided to have a day in Newcastle.
Yeah. And then I phoned you back. You just went to the toilet, and I phoned her back and I told her, I said, I'm so sorry, but he's not who he says he is. I mean, I didn't know that wasn't his name at the time. I just knew he'd never booked the weddings, that he'd never done any of the work to the house, he's never got the boilers installed, said he's been lying to you. And you had to then, I said, just get him to come to the house so we can
Confront
speak
him
to him
about
and
it.
confront him. So Coleen had to then go into Malmaison bar, make out everything was fine, and drive back. And you should have had an
You guys
Oscar
must
for
be very
that.
close though, because
Oh,
like
God, yeah.
cause sometimes you go another way, can't
Yeah.
it? You could have pushed
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
said,
Or you could have
I
blamed
don't-
me for
yeah.
bringing this man
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
our lives.
I and we did have the odd row occasionally, but
we do that anyway,
Yeah,
don't we?
absolutely. But overall,
So do we.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
I just felt devastated for what I'd found out, and didn't have a clue how bad it was going to get after that. But yeah,
I remember you saying to me, I might have lost all my money,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want to be you in a million years,
No, I do-
Colleen.
I do remember
You know,
that.
because it's money, you can make more money and you can, it's money, isn't it? Money isn't that important to us as a family. We say our books, we give money to Women's Aid from other sales and stuff. It's more, you don't hurt people and you don't act the way he did. And so it was,
I think there was in a way.
and poor Charlie,
Yeah.
the little boy to the
I was
left
going to
like
ask you
that.
that. So, like, how you cope with that? Must feel like a sort of
At the
time
time,
bomb a little bit.
I
to
mean,
you,
when
like,
Karen
and-
rang me and told me, and I mean, I was shaking so much, but I don't know how I managed to keep it together to get him back to the house to confront him. But when he ran off, he was a big part of Charlie's life. He did a lot of the care for Charlie while I was working when he wasn't supposedly on shift. So when he just disappeared out of his life, and Charlie's never seen him from that day, he just turned 1 and he's 9 now, then he had horrendous separation anxiety, so he would just scream and scream till he was sick. He had an awful time. I mean,
did,
he still at times now, he likes to, even at this age, it's almost like embedded in the back of his head. He doesn't like if I'm late, or he's getting better, but I remember at school times the teacher said he'd be looking out the window and stuff because he'd always be anxious somebody wouldn't be there for him.
Yeah,
And
because his
he-
dad's gone.
Have you
hasn't come
been
back,
able to
yeah.
talk to him? I mean, he's young.
Yeah,
So
well-
When you
what?
explain
Yeah.
it, yeah.
I always thought it's going to be out there. I mean, it hit the papers because it was such an unusual story. It went around the world. I mean, it's always going to be able to find out what happened. And I think I tell him what I believe is age appropriate, so he knows that his dad, that he doesn't see anymore, wasn't a very good guy, and he got in trouble for lying to people. But since then, I've gone on to remarry, and I've got the most amazing husband who I'm very happy with, and he's adopted Charlie. So Charlie actually knows he had a different dad, and knows he's now got a new dad who he calls his forever dad, and that's what he actually said to the social worker when we were doing the adoption process, and they said they take the kids away to, make sure they're okay and talk to them. And he just said, I know I had a different dad, but I'm now getting my forever dad. And I was just like, and that's...
Yeah.
So now, it's not James Scott, Greg Wilson, legally he's got... If Charlie one day decides he wants to find his dad, that's his choice. I hope he doesn't, but I wouldn't stop him. But he can't make contact with Charlie. And Charlie, he knows he had a different dad, but he was one, he doesn't remember him.
But I think that was the worst thing in a way. See, with Charlie, he's the absolute blessing of our lives. He's the most gorgeous little boy, and we're so blessed to have him. But Coleen was 42 when she had him, and she did not want any more children. She'd had very difficult births. She'd been very ill, and Greg, knew that, and he chose to falsify vasectomy results. He chose to shave down there, put makeup on, put gauze on, have phone calls with consultants to trick somebody to have a baby who didn't want to, and actually Coleen was very ill and almost died having Charlie. So did Charlie. And who plays God like that and goes to that extent? I mean, you didn't want another child, you really didn't. But it's lovely. Charlie's the best thing. But who does that? That's pure evil, really.
It is, because you'd think that at some point he would feel bad and he would have to confess, or he'd have to kind of, it would kind of just slip a little bit. But
it's all of the things, though, isn't it? It's narcissistic, it's psychotic,
it seems like this other personality just shuts the other one off.
It's another level of control, though, because he could carry on doing it if Coleen was busy with a baby and he was tied to her, and it was just a way of control. Because although we found out seeing other women and doing all sorts, he didn't want Coleen to ever go out. He changed the way you dressed.
It was very insidious. You can see it now looking back, but it wasn't. He was never physically abusive in any way. And he always...
treated you like a princess, really.
But then when you stand back now from the outside, knowing what happened, and look back, I can see what he used to do, and it was insidious. It was, suddenly buying you things, and, eventually I wasn't dressing the way I used to do.
She was going from sort of high heels and dresses to, just flat boots and no makeup, because that he just... had you convinced that that's how you would look better, and he would just pick away at things. It was all control.
I can see it now.
He would drag me out. I used to work really long hours, and he would drag me out of bed on a Saturday morning to go on a shopping, because he wanted to treat my twin sister to like a Pretty Woman thing where I would run around and buy all these clothes for her. So I would go and find all these lovely clothes and go, oh no, that's no good, that's not. And then he would buy her these things that looked like something.
It was tweed and stuff.
It was like sort of Agatha Christie, 1940s. Sort of
high ruffle blouses.
Yeah, and it wasn't Coleen at all. I'd say, but she wouldn't like that. Oh, but she'd look so elegant in that. She'd look so lovely. And I thought, but I know my sister, that's not her. But he had you changing everything about you.
Because sometimes when you got a baby and you're tired and you're fed up, sometimes it's just, clothes are clothes, aren't they? Now I look back, I think, he would buy me a lot of chocolate all the time. He was always trying to, put weight on you and stuff like that. It was almost to try and make you less. Do you remember? Do you remember that massive box of chocolates?
But they're classic traits, the one that.
Well, he knew that I like Cadbury's chocolate. So on Christmas, he went out and bought every chocolate bar that Cadbury's do in multiple.
Yeah, I helped you with those, to be fair.
No, but I used to have the neighbourhood kids around and just go fill your boots, have as much as you want, and little things like that. Everything was just so over the top, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It just seemed like he didn't have to do that though, because he was,
I know.
It's just,
there was a lot of things he didn't. Yeah.
It's micro control.
But it's micro control. But that's the thing. But it's just another layer on everything all of the time, isn't it? But he's doing it. What you think is through love and affection, but it's not really, because when you look back at it, then you can see it. But when you're in it, I think because of circumstances as well, he was very lucky. I think through everything that he did, he had. For some reason, why has he got all the luck?
Luck of the devil, that's what we always said. He just needed to, bump into one of his kids out and about, and they go, Dad, or, because he said he had 2 daughters and they lived with his ex in the States, but he actually had sons that lived in Darlington. Well, he could have easily, we could have been in Newcastle anywhere and bumped into any of his kids. Could have bumped into any of his ex-army mates.
There was that guy who called him Wilson.
Yeah, so we went.
Even managed to get away with that.
Yeah, that was on the documentary, wasn't it? We went to Alton Towers once, not long after Charlie had been born, and it was my mum watched Charlie. It was me, James, my daughter Laura, and her then boyfriend. A lovely day out, and we're just queuing for a ride, and this guy came up and went, "Oh, you all right, Wilson, mate?" And me and my daughter were looking at each other thinking, why did you just call him Wilson? He's called Greg Scott. James Scott. See, there's not many names, isn't there? And we're like confused. So when he walked off, he already had a backstory straight away, and it's because in the fire service, they all have nicknames. And we grew up watching London's Burning and stuff, so everyone had a sick note or whatever it was. So he said his nickname, because he was quite slight build, was if there was an issue with an enclosed space, he could always be the one that got in. So they always said, where there's a will, there's a way. If there's so they called him Will, as in where there's a will, there's a way, right? So that was his nickname, Will. And he was just saying, "You all right, Will, son?" The way you'd...
Bloody hell.
And I spoke to my daughter afterwards and said, "Now you know the truth. Would you?" I said, "Now you know the truth. Do you think that was suspicious?" She went, "No, not for a second did I think that."
But he wouldn't. Because
And
it makes sense.
It's the off-the-cuff things that he made up on the spot. Very creative in a way.
Well, it is though, because lying's like a muscle though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And the guy was an amputee.
This kind of dance that he's doing all the time, it's phenomenal. If it happened to somebody else, you'd be like,
I know.
what's going on
it's
there?
Just sometimes because I think we're almost immune to it in a way, because we've heard the story so many times, and then it's when you see like your face today in the shop.
And I think when you say things with, I liken it to like the Emperor's New Clothes. If you say things with such authority, people tend to believe it.
Yeah.
I used to go to a
Conviction,
networking breakfast with him once a month, and I remember he did this amazing talk about being in the fire service, and he had everyone like just in awe. And he was saying about this watch he had, and it was indestructible, and he'd actually run a fire engine over the top to prove this watch was indestructible. And everyone's going, "That's amazing." And actually, we think back of it, of course the watch would have broken. It's like, how many tons is a fire engine?
How many?
But everyone's going, "Oh my God,
That's what I mean, though. It must be like a house of cards. Like, so once you've uncovered one lie and you've convinced yourself that you're onto them and you know, everything else must start popping up and going, right, okay,
I'm going to try this. Can I get away with
We
this?
started to actually wonder, though, did he get to a point when he actually started to believe his own lies? Because there were,
they do, though, don't they?
Because there were things he was doing. For example, when we were getting married, and we wrote all the wedding invitations out, and there was his family abroad and friends he had and all this, and we wrote them all out with all the addresses, and he took them to the post office and sent them mail and wherever. Well, he knew these were fake names and fake addresses, so he could have just stuck them in a bin. I'd have been none the wiser. But eventually, after he ran off, these started being returned to me. Sender not known. It would. Why did he do that? Why did he spend quite a lot of money sending all these
airmail?
Airmail to all different countries.
To me, because it cements the lie. Because you could, like, even if they get returned, you could still be like, "Well, it must be the right address." So
when they're all returned, it's almost like, did he believe they were real?
Yeah,
it's just
he must have known they'd get returned.
But he knew.
But that closes the lie off for him because...
No, but he knew the wedding couldn't happen anyway, so it was going to be cancelled. So as far as we knew, these people haven't responded because the wedding's been cancelled anyway. If they start all coming back, it's going to...
He could have just taken all the... I mean, that annoys me as well, because my mother and I sat for hours and hours and hours writing all these invitations. These people that didn't, these bizarre names that didn't exist. And... he could have just taken all those invitations and stuck them straight in a bin. And he didn't. He went and queued up at the post office and spent probably, £60, sending them all airmail, which, for a wedding that was never going to happen. That, to me, he's gone a bit too low.
Another example, which is even worse than that, is his two daughters were in the States, but he wanted them to come over and visit. And obviously, I'm all about family, so we're really excited for that. So my garage had been converted, kind of. It was into sort of a makeshift gym, so it was all concrete floor still, and it still had the garage door. He, with his own money, long before he got any money off Karen, so where this money came from I don't know, he got plans put in place, he got the garage door taken out, a window put in, and he converted it into a bedroom for his girls to stop in, got it all decorated, put the colour scheme they'd like, toys they'd like, pictures they'd like, bedspreads on it, all in the colours his two daughters wanted, but he didn't have any daughters, so he knew that these this would never be a room for his girls because they didn't exist. So why did he spend all that money?
He might as well just burnt it in the street.
Why did he do that? He just
buys you time.
Because you buy your time, but at one point you've got to get yourself out of that lie.
Try to put your head into that.
Yeah.
But like, at what point is that lie going to creep up on you unless it all falls apart? Because the further he goes and the more investment he's putting into these lies, almost the further it pushes you away from wanting to pursue the truth, because you think, well, why would you? Why would you?
You kind of did live in the moment a lot. It sounds like he lived in that, right, well, I'm going to do this and that gets us out of that. But he doesn't think of the two steps ahead.
There was one particular time when one of his youngest daughter had a horse riding accident, so he'd had to go over to America. So that had given him, he'd obviously probably fallen out of his wife and needed to devote some time to her. So we were getting messages when he was at the airport and pictures of things he was buying in the airport, and he must have just been nicking stock images. But she'd had this head injury and it'd been touch and go, but she had to pull him through. And he sent all these pictures of a girl, really terrible swelling and like a head mass contraption on, who'd had all these head injuries, sent that to us, and it had a passing likeness to her daughter, but obviously because she was so injured, we went, oh, that's terrible. Obviously it wasn't his daughter, he didn't have a daughter. Don't know who he'd got these photos of, but he was passing off this very injured child as being his daughter, and that was just
we went shopping to buy, he wanted to buy a toy, do you remember that toy monkey?
Yeah.
That had it was like a Huggy Bear sort of monkey thing that his hands would clasp around you, and he wanted to have it to be with his daughter, so when she woke up it would be something from him. So he went shopping for this, and then he would take pictures, and I mean he would literally go to the airport and take a selfie outside an airport with the toy. He did this, these are the lengths he'd go to make you believe he was where he said he was. And then I found out later he gave that monkey to one of his sons as a Christmas present, because then when I did actually speak to his wife and we exchanged stories, it was, for example, I was getting rid of a cross train in my house. He said there was a guy at work who was trying to get fit, and I said, oh, well, he can have it, just dismantle it, give it to him. Of course, his wife suddenly gets this present. What was it, his mum bought me a pair of shoes. His mum bought me a pair of shoes and sent them in the post. Really lovely Alexander McQueen.
Yeah.
So expensive shoes, but not my cup of tea at all. And I just said, oh, it's really, really kind of her. And he went, I said, but they're not mine. So he said he would sell them to one of his mates at work for his missus. And now he took them back and gave them to his wife. So she then had the shoes I didn't want. He gave me a necklace that he'd stolen.
Lucky you were both the same size.
Yeah,
No, but
he gave me a necklace.
All jokes aside, though, you do wonder whether, like, because it's almost like he's created this little micro economy of people, and almost went to the lengths where he could do that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that he's kind of gone on to
I always,
and try to find someone who's got the same shoe size as his wife.
Yeah.
But I can get the logic.
I think he was probably that shoe size as well. He could have worn them.
His wife.
I think it's just. I always think it's like we were all just pieces in a game he was playing.
Yeah.
So there was no humanity to him really. He just thought, we're all just these different pawns in his game, and he moved us around and manipulated us the way he wanted, with him in the centre. Because a lot of the stuff he did was actually really cruel to you, to me, to his wife, but it was his game, and he was the king of this little world he'd created.
Come back to his parents, though, and his parents said he's done it again.
Yeah, it was his mum and his stepdad.
Did any of that ever come out in the wash, like when it went through into the courts? And were you given any peace of mind at all as to what his background was? Or?
All I've ever wanted, well, his background was he was in the army, then he got discharged under ill health, wasn't it? I don't know. The army records are quite sealed down. I think the police got access to them. And then he didn't, as far as he had the odd job here and there, but he got a decent army pension, and some other pension he got. So that was his life. That was his background, and he'd been with his wife for a lot of years, but he had cheated on his wife, so he was known to be a liar. When his mum said that, she came to my house a couple of times and we forged a friendship. We're not in contact now because it's difficult. It's not that the last time I spoke to her, her husband was poorly with cancer, and I said, look, I'm going to take a step back because you've got enough on your plate. And you've got to bear in mind, horrendous what he did, is still her son, and she didn't make excuses for him, but it's going to be hard for the woman. So I just said, Charlie's here, he's your grandson, whenever you want to see him, the door's always open for you. I'm going to take a step back. And we've never, so that was about 8 years ago, wasn't it? So we haven't spoken since then, but the times I did meet up, she was very much, oh, well, he just lives in this, sometimes he lives in a bit of a dream world, and, you know, and I don't think he's that happy with his, and it was kind of, because I remember John, her husband at the time, actually saying, enough, you know, you can't make excuses for any of this he's done. But I don't know. Yeah, mothers and sons. I can't, you know.
She didn't want to believe it, did she?
No,
really?
exactly.
She didn't want to believe it because it's...
I wouldn't want to believe it if my son did that.
It's quite unbelievable, yeah, because it's kind of taking advantage of other people, and you don't want your son to do that, so you try and go, you just ignore it, brush it under the carpet, and it sounds like that.
I think he'd always been a difficult son, from what you can read in between the lines. He brought a lot of trouble to the door, let's put it this way. But yeah, she was actually, because he, right up until the end, that's why it took so long to get to court, he always pleaded not guilty. So you go to magistrate's court, don't you? You get so many times to put in a plea, and he always pleaded not guilty, right up to the Friday before we were going to trial. So we believed, I mean, we were scared, because I've never been in a court.
We were terrified. We've never been in court. And it was the Friday, so the trial was starting on the Monday. Yeah. And it was about 5:45. And is it CPS that phoned? And they phoned me, didn't they? And they just said, he's pleaded guilty. I thought I'd heard, because it was massive relief, thinking, God, we don't have to go to trial.
Because we were just thinking we're going to be
11th hour
pulled to pieces in court. But he actually, so he always pleaded not guilty. And in one instance, he actually said, yes, my name is James Scott. I'm not Greg Wilson. I've changed it by deed poll. And Colleen's the one. I was just really an unwilling participant, and she manipulated me into doing this fraud to get all this money off her sister. And I remember the police telling me this, and I'm
you try to blame you.
Yeah. He tried to blame me, and I was like, what? And Chris Penn, the prosecuting police officer, the investigating police officer, he actually said, don't worry about it, Cole. We all had such a laugh in the station. We were hooting about this. I mean, the actual audacity of the bloke. And I said to Karen, she went, oh my God, this.
But it just shows there was no sense of regret or what he'd done, no sense of what he'd hurt the mother of his child. He was actually just trying to put all the blame on her for just being a victim.
Can I go back to the Malmaison bit?
Yeah.
So when you confronted him, you did confront him, didn't
Not
you?
in the Malmaison. I got him back to Karen's house to confront him.
And then what did you say, and how did he respond?
So I went, when Karen, she rang me, my phone rang, and she just said, get yourself away from him, I need to talk to you. Is he in earshot? Just get away. So I went in the ladies' loo and sat on the toilet while Karen said, well, you actually said sit down, didn't you? So I perched myself on the loo and just said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, Cole, but he's been lying to you about everything, and there's never been a wedding booked. I mean, at this stage, we didn't know he'd faked the vasectomy or anything. That came out via the police later on for their investigations. But at the time, he hadn't booked the wedding. That was a lie, and I think you've stolen my money. Get him back here. We want to have it out with him. Don't give him a chance to do a runner. So I had to go. I deserved some sort of acting award. I had to go out there. My legs were shaking. My stomach was churning. And just say, my sister and Ryan, your husband now, but your partner at the time, they've had a bit of a fallout, and knowing how close we were, I said, I need to go see her. I need to check she's all right. And so we was more than happy to...
He was over the moon, because the thing with James is he didn't like any men in our family. So he was constantly trying to split me and Ryan up, which I didn't see at the time. He was causing all sorts of problems. And he just wanted all his women around him, because we all have daughters. My mum, my dad had passed away. So he liked his women. He didn't like... Because I was with Ryan before you met James, but he was always trying to cause problems, making out there was something going on between you and him and you and Ryan. It was all bollocks, but he was causing all sorts of problems. So when he heard that we'd had a row, he couldn't. He was skipping to my house because he was over the moon.
So I was sitting.
It was an opportunity for him, wasn't it?
It was an opportunity for him to stick the knife in, get rid of
sitting in
Ryan.
that car journey with Charlie in the back seat from Newcastle to Chester Street. So I'm sitting there just thinking, my head's spinning. Oh my God, who's this man I'm sat next to, and all these lies he's told.
God, how did you maintain that? That's a long trip, that.
I can't really remember a lot.
But you did mention something.
I can't remember a lot what we spoke about, but I do remember saying to him, can I just ask you something, James? And you can ask me anything. And he always called me Princess, which I hate that term now. You can ask me anything, Princess. And I went, you'd never lie to me, would you? And he went, of course I wouldn't. I'd never lie to you. And I said, honestly, you'd never tell me a lie. No, I wouldn't. I said, on Charlie's life, which isn't, I shouldn't, I said, on Charlie's life, your baby's life, you'd never tell me a lie. And he said, I could never lie. That's one thing I could never do. I'm the worst liar in the world. I could never lie. And I said, so your son would drop down dead if you're telling a lie? And he just said, yep, I would never lie to you. And I remember looking at him at that point and thinking, who the bloody hell is this man sat beside me?
Well, you have to go to that extreme to really make sure that
It was more.
you know.
It was like picking at a wound. It hurt, but I thought I'm going to push you to see what level you'll go to.
Yeah,
and this was all. This was. Well, he ran off that day.
He did. So he got back to the house. And we just hit him with it when he came in, and he was just like a scared rabbit.
He was still denying everything.
It was deny. And my husband now, Ryan, he's because he was quite a short bloke, James, wasn't he? But Ryan's like 6'4". He's a rugby player, so he looked. I think he was intimidated. Yeah. So he managed to get you out of the house because Charlie had no nappies.
We had to go to the shops to get food and nappies, didn't we?
But he was still denying it, and I was thinking, you can't deny it. We know. And then he was just no. There's been a massive mistake. There's a massive mistake. But you're gonna have to.
Well, he said about the wedding. He said, "I just loved you that much. I really wanted to marry you, but." And Ryan's saying, "But the wedding was never booked. Everything's fake." And he said, "But I mean, why did he even go to those lengths? What was the point? I never said or gave him any sign that I wanted to get married. I didn't want to get. It was all him pushing for all these things that he didn't need to push for." And then he said, "Oh, it's my mum. My mum doesn't want me to marry you, and that's why." And he's saying all these things to Karen and to me and to Ryan, and I'm thinking, "But hang on, I've met your mum. She liked me. I could tell she liked me. All right, it was." Brief meeting, but she didn't seem like this hard-faced woman that's going to say you can't marry this woman because she's not the same financial standing or you, whatever the reason he was again. So then I'm thinking none of this is adding up, was it? So, but we had to go, and I think he turned my phone on silent at that point because you'd been ringing me and I hadn't heard it. We'd been in the supermarket, so he must have got hold of my phone, and we're sitting with the shopping going back up to my house, but my bag was on my lap, so I felt it vibrate. My phone.
At that point, I'd done a bit more investigating
because
he had some accountants. I can't remember what they were called now. It was a big firm of lawyers. Sorry, lawyers it was, and it's is it Chase? Somebody Clifford Chase? Something like that. But it's a big huge solicitors or lawyers, lawyers, and apparently he was dealing with somebody at the Newcastle branch, which was down at the quayside. So we got in touch with their main office to speak to someone. I said, "Well, he's dealing with so and so who's at the Newcastle. Oh, we've got branches here, there, and everywhere. No branch in Newcastle." So I'd already known that it was all lies, but it was just another thing that proved he'd been lying. And I said, "Look, I need the police, Coleen."
That's it. I remember picking the phone up and Karen going, "He's lied about everything. He's lied about, and we need to speak to him again." And you were in quite a state. Yeah. So I think at this point he heard that and thought, the game's up now. I'm not going to be able to top my way out of this one. So we zoomed into the street I lived on, pulled onto the drive, dumped the shopping on the driveway, took Charlie out of his car seat and passed him through an open window to my daughter Katie, who's like, "What's going on?" And he jumped back in the car and I went, "What are you doing? Karen and Ryan are coming." "Oh, I just need to clear my head. I'll be back in 1 minute." Zoomed off just as Karen and Ryan are driving into the estate.
So we just missed by about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And as he drove
past... If I'd put his foot down, he'd have had it.
And as he drove past Ryan and me, he just did this little wave, like right. But it was, honestly, we were just looking at him. But the look on his face, it was equivalent of giving us the finger.
Yeah.
It was. But he looked so jubilant because to him, in that moment, it was exhilarated. He got away with it all, and he just got away. And I know that was the point where he thought, right, he'd got away with everything. That was the last he was ever going to see of us. Little did he know.
Because that would have been our wedding day. Hence why we were going to Malmaison and having a day out, because it was, because the wedding couldn't go ahead because his daughters couldn't come over and all that. So that he drove off on that day, said it'd be a minute, and I've never seen him face to face from that day to this. He's never seen Charlie, he's never seen you, never seen Ryan. He just went, and that was it.
And Ryan and I went to the police, and that's when it started finding stuff out.
So that's when we started to unravel the rest of it.
I ask I know this is a sensitive question, but do you feel safe, like now, like he's out? Are the kind of measures in place to make sure?
I didn't at the time. I think I had PTSD, understandably, and I would see him everywhere. I'd be in the post office, and I swear I'd seen him in the queue in front of me, and I'd see him walking down the street, and that went on for quite a while, and not anymore. And I did move away, and like I said, I got remarried, but I'm actually in the process of moving back to Chester Street to be near a family again, because it's how close we all are. So it will bring me more into the path of potentially bumping into him. I mean, he's been seen in Newcastle lately. He was on this coffee date in Stockton. He's around and about the area. I think he needs to be more scared of bumping into us than us bumping into him, to be honest, because I've always wanted to have my say to him. in court, I thought I'd get to look him straight in the eye and sort of see him and think, I see who you are. But it wasn't like that in Durham Crown Court. We only saw the back of his head. On sentencing day, it was in lockdown. I had my camera on. He refused to switch his camera on, so I couldn't even see him so he's such a coward. And I'm not a violent, aggressive person. I hate confrontation of any type. I just want to ask him one question and just say, why did you do it? He's had so many opportunities. We've done 2 documentaries now. Both have contacted him for his say. We've done the podcast. I've done so many interviews on TV. I've been on This Morning, done the whole round of everything. He's always been given the right to reply and give his side of the story. And because everybody just wants to know why.
Yeah.
That's the one question everyone's got. Why did you do this? It wasn't financial.
Hence, we've written 2 books, and we're now writing a 3rd one because so many people who've been invested reading the 2 books. Because we only started off wanting to write one, and then they said, no, we want to know what happened after that. We're writing the 3rd one, actually, why did he do it? But we can't really answer that. We're not experts, so we can give our opinion, then we sort of talk to what the experts' opinions are. But it's so... The lengths he went to, I mean, you'd have to read the book because we've only touched on things, but it's just another level.
Do you find there's no closure in it, though? Because there's always an open door of not knowing, and not knowing for me would wind me up every day.
It does. And I've never been in trouble with the police. I don't know how the legal system works. I mean, we know better now than we did at the time. But I thought as soon as he ran off, because the way we found out about his name... So, of course, Karen and I went to the police and they thought it was James Scott. So they're giving the registration of the car he drove off. And this is James Scott. He's a fireman. He works at Darlington Fire Station. And, of course, then it came back, well, that car's not registered to James Scott. It's a Greg Wilson. So we just assumed, well, that's someone he knows, or it's a friend, or it's a colleague. Didn't for one second think that's his actual name, because why would we? Then you contacted the fire station, never heard of a Greg Wilson, never heard of a James Scott. And it wasn't till my daughter actually found his wife's Facebook profile, and it was open to a certain degree, and she was scrolling through old photos and she found a photo.
This was just, what teenagers like with social media.
Yeah, it's like, got them involved, and it's like they can find anybody in a matter of seconds. And there's a picture of his wife, him, and all the kids together, and it's Greg Wilson, and literally that was just that. Oh my God, that's how we found out, through Facebook.
It was a really bizarre night because this was supposed to be Colleen's wedding night. Ryan and I spent about 4 hours at the police station. We hadn't eaten all day, we'd had nothing, so you had no food in the house because you were supposed to be getting married. So we ended up ordering fish and chips and drinking champagne because that was the only alcohol we had in the house.
Which was just
the wedding. It just seemed so surreal, and we're just having chips and champagne. And I remember we went into like fits of laughter because...
It was shock.
I think when you're in shock and things are so awful, at some point you just have to laugh.
You get like this gallows humour, don't you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but now you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of, there must be a relief of... There's a relief and a frustration at the same time,
all I've
isn't
ever
it?
wanted to do, so like I said, I've never got the opportunity to ask him. And nobody, the police... I mean, in the Love Bombed podcast, they actually got a psychologist involved, and on both documentaries, particularly Red Flag, they had 2 different experts, and nobody can give us an answer.
Yeah.
And he's not talking, and it's frustrating.
There's that chap that's that self-proclaimed psychopath in America who's done so many things on YouTube on him. And it's interesting to hear because he's actually been diagnosed as a psychopath, and he's saying he's a psychopath, and it's interesting all the terms and his behaviour.
HG Tudor's called. He's calls himself the psychopath narcissist, and he helps people recognise the traits of narcissism and psychopaths. H.G. Tudor, he's written loads of books, and he normally deals with celebrities, but so it's normally famous people he looks at, but occasionally does infamous people. And he did Greg Wilson one day, and it was somebody sent it to me, and it was fascinating because he could actually sit and explain why he'd done certain. This was breadcrumbing, this was because his sense of entitlement, this was this
grandiosity,
and it's fascinating. Yeah. It's surreal to hear your life picked apart like that at the same time.
Yeah. I think you can break it down like that in segments, but would he understand? Would Greg understand what he's actually done? I don't think he had. I don't think he could put that together. On the outside looking in, and you analyse something going, this. Well, you just do the things that you deem fit to do. But I think you start to believe his own lies and then go into it. So.
Personally, which I this is my personal opinion because he's the only person that knows, I think that potentially maybe he was bored in his relationship and he wanted to have an affair. And he went on a dating site and put a fake name in because he didn't want to be recognised. And maybe that's how it started. And then they met me and he liked me. He liked my family setup. He liked my friendship group. He got pulled into this family and he liked it then and he wanted to go with it. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he started thinking he was going to do this or if he got into that moment, started to live this life and like it, because then he did take on the facade of somebody else, didn't he?
He did. And I think the thing is, it's like he's been called, like, what they call fireman scam or the North East Water Mitty.
Yeah.
I think it's
like that one, North East Water Mitty.
Fireman scam.
Yeah.
But it was the Daily Mail. It was the Daily Mail that did that. The Daily Mail aren't particularly nice, and they like to word things to victim shame. So I remember the headline was something: "What attracted to the blonde single mum to the millionaire firefighter fireman scam?" Well, he wasn't a millionaire. He never said he'd got any money particularly, but that didn't, it makes it tells more stories, doesn't it? Yeah. And it was at the time, I was like, oh, that's horrible. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to own that name. So that's what we called the book.
Because at the time, Coleen had been asked to do loads of interviews and go on loads of programmes, and it was on the back of the Daily Mail, because the Daily Mail are quite vicious, actually.
Well, they asked me to do an interview and I said no.
And she refused, so they put their own version out, which was wrong. And she got the worst trolling during lockdown, which sent you to a really dark place.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I used to spend hours on the phone with her because I was really worried that she was going to do something. They were calling her just these, these people probably sitting in the mother's basements in dirty underpants, just thinking they can abuse anyone. Yeah. My sister's a decent woman and she's been called the worst names. And just on the back of the Daily Mail, there's thousands of comments. And that's why at that point, we thought, you've got to tell the truth.
Yeah,
you've got to get the story out.
It was... because I was a single mum, blonde. Yeah. Don't dare be taken. You can't be. I'm not. My hair's actually dark brown. I choose to dye it blonde, but the names I was given, and I deserved everything. That I remember one person saying, "Oh, a kid should be taken away from her. Right? She shouldn't be allowed to have children. She shouldn't be allowed out of the house unsupervised." That was a nice one.
Yeah. I agree with that at times, though. But
I couldn't be trusted in my own job. It was horrible, and because. It was a lot of misogyny that was going on. And then at that point I would because I was with my now husband Scott, and he was just like, don't read anything, but it's really hard not to do, and you're just looking for that one person that's going to be nice in this sea of horrible comments. And it's like a sort of self-harm, if you like. You just can't stop yourself reading them, and it would get to the point I'd lock myself in the bathroom with a laptop reading all these comments, and I did kind of spiral. It was in lockdown, which didn't help, so I couldn't see my family and friends. And I wouldn't even go in the back garden because I was convinced people were going to stare at me over the back fence and stuff. It was awful. And it was Karen said, right, enough of this shit. Seriously, take the power back. And I'd been asked to do loads of interviews, and I went on, it was You and Yours, wasn't it? Initially on the radio.
You did Women's Hour on Radio 4.
Yeah, I went on You and Yours, and I just gave a short interview about what had happened to me, and it was from that the actual researcher said, oh my God, this isn't the story that's out in the media. And I went, well, no, but this is the story. And it was through that he got in touch afterwards and said, I'd like to work with you. There's a documentary, there's a podcast to be made out of this. So from that's how Love Bombed was born, and it's in its third series now, so it's done really well.
So you had no intent of writing a book?
No intent of even speaking. I thought when he got those 6 years, they got in touch and said, will you give an interview to so-and-so? And I went, no. He's gone to prison and we just want to get on with my life.
As a family, we just thought that was the end of it.
Just wanted to get on with my life. Yeah. But it didn't pan out like that. So then, once the real story, then you got all the media attention, didn't we? But it was, at the time, thought writing a book, let's get the words down. It was actually Ryan, your husband, my brother-in-law, that said, just write it. And I went, who's going to read this? We're not authors. Who's going to read it? And he said, well... And then we decided, look, if we write it down, it'd be cathartic, if nothing else. And if we do publish it, if one person buys it and reads it and it helps them, then it's all been worth it. And it was a bestseller in the first month of release.
And it's helped so many people. We've raised tens of thousands for Women's Aid.
I was actually, I was the keynote speaker at Women's Aid Newcastle 50th celebrations a couple of weeks ago. So we're working with Women's Aid, and we've had so, like I said, that woman in the cafe a couple of weeks ago is a prime example. But we've had people get in touch saying one woman said her daughter had read the book, it got her out of an abusive relationship. One woman actually said via reading the book and contacting Women's Aid, it saved her life. And
I get quite a lot of messages, but Coleen, you get inundated at times, don't you? But
and it makes it all.
It does.
It actually not I wouldn't want to go through any of it. But sitting here now with a lovely family still, and we never. It never fractured us at all, did it? I mean,
that's really impressive.
Yeah,
I mean, that comes across though as well. Listening to you both,
we're best mates as well as sisters.
Do you think that the writing of the book and the taking hold of the narrative and everything was a bit like coping with grief, isn't it? Taking hold of the story.
And I think, like Coleen always says, it's cathartic to her because she felt she was letting the pain down.
I literally felt as though it was almost like the bad word. The things that happened were coming out at the end of the pen. It sounds like really arty-farty, but it's
no, it's
true.
Because I've got to be honest, you speak really kindly, like and humanely about these things, and a lot of people wouldn't. No. And when you think of the space of time, it's not that. It's a very, very short time ago that these things happened.
If I'd have become a man hater, because I know, understandably, I could sit there and think I'm never going to trust anyone again. But the fact that I've gone on, met a new lovely man, got married, he's adopted Charlie, we're all happy. The thing is, he had a rough ride because when we started dating, I had to meet all his family, I had to see his passport, I had to find out where he worked.
See his bank card.
I told him from the first date what I'd been through, and I just said, look, if I seem like a neurotic nutter, bear with me, there's reasons. And he just embraced it all, and his family took me under the wing, and I've been amazing. But if I'd off for all men are the same and I'm not trusting anyone, then he'd have won, wouldn't I?
Most people are good. In the way, I think most people are good. We met a very bad one, but you can't allow your perception of humanity to be to be ruined by that. And I've got
I've never seen that.
See that?
Just like she spills a glass of wine.
Cat-like reflexes there. But I do. I'm quite philosophical about this. I think everything happens in life for a reason. You don't understand it when it's happening, especially the shit things, but just stay with it, because at some point in the future, not on our time scale, some point in the future it'll make sense. For me, I always wanted to write. I never had the guts to do it. Because of what happened, I wrote a book with Coleen. On the back of that, I've gone on to write funny women's fiction. I donate heavily to Great Ormond Street and Epilepsy Society, helping so many charities, Macmillan's Cancer Research, helping so many charities. So ultimately, a lot of good's come out.
You forged a positive experience.
Even through having Charlie, so he manipulated my life to such a degree. He falsified vasectomy documents, showed I got a nil sperm count, and then I fell pregnant, which was just a miracle baby called Charlie. But we all know now that how it happened. And then I nearly died, and Charlie nearly died. But now I've got my precious son, who means the world to me and to my daughters. They love him to pieces. And having Charlie meant that I met my husband Scott, because he had 2 young sons, and potentially, if I hadn't have had Charlie, then we wouldn't have had anything in common really. But in fact, I had a young son as well. It's almost like my path went so far off what I believed my track was.
But where you always meant to be.
Where maybe I was always meant to be. So I'm never. I mean, nothing that James or Greg, whatever, he's not to be thanked for any of this, because this wasn't his plan. It was all. He's a very, very selfish, callous narcissist. He's got no empathy for anyone. But I'm happy now, and I've turned the horrible things he did to me and my entire family and my friends, and we've turned that into something positive. Yeah. Then I feel like we're the winners, because he's always going to sit there. I don't care how much of a narcissist you are. There's got to be some time in the middle of the night you're going to sit there and think, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do. Surely you've got to.
It's when in his life. It could be 10 years' time. It could be 2 weeks' time.
And I think he really underestimated us as a family, because we're nice people and we're decent people and we're kind people, but we weren't the pushovers he expected us to be. And I think with us, we were not going to let him get away with it. And I think it's good it happened to us because of the way we've worked everything since then. Because although he's still trying to behave, he can't do it the way he did, because anyone just has to even Google James Scott or Greg Wilson, up it pops his ugly mug. So he's, we've been so widely read all over the world that people recognise him.
And it's going to get worse for him, because we've just finished writing a 3-part screenplay about it as well. So
have you?
Yes.
When and how can we see that?
It's in the final stages. So we've got a screenplay writer. So we've read them, and he's doing some final tweets.
It's really good. It's really good. So hopefully that'll
not too distant future.
But does it help, obviously, because it doesn't just happen to yourself, it happened to everybody, the whole family kind of thing. And I think that helps as a collective to kind of deal with this situation, because you can bounce off each other, you can lean on each other. And also it's the power in the family kind of thing, and you didn't get away with it because of that.
Well, if I can use, I'm sorry if this is TMI. So this is TMI.
Oh God, I don't.
Nothing's TMI. Nothing's TMI.
We don't know what's going
I mean, I'm not talking about what I talked about earlier when he first came in.
She's a loose cannon.
Yeah, you can cut this out, but okay. So I had to have a smear test recently.
Oh God!
I've got a tilted cervix, so they have problems finding it.
Well, that took a turn, didn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, I had gone for the smear test.
Good name for a band. That took a service.
Isn't it just the elusive tilted cervix? But so I'd gone to the hospital, and anyway, we'd ended up talking about James because one of them had read the book, and I mean, so anyway, she located the AWOL cervix, and then she was just saying while she was rummaging down there, miner's lamp on, the whole work, rummaging down, she says, oh, at least James hasn't nicked it then, as well as everything else. But it's definitely there. So we were just laughing. She went, oh, for future reference, it's just to the left. Tell everyone to the left. So we were just seeing Beyonce. Everything left in a box to the left, and it was just the really surreal thing. But this woman had read the book, and it was just like when she was down there, rummaging around, said, "Oh, it's here! I found it. James hasn't nicked it." It's just
it is
so
kind
weird.
of it is
Inappropriate jokes.
Well, that's your fault.
That's what I write. I write very inappropriate stuff and jokes, and I think for me, it's I think with cancer as well. Once you've gone toe to toe with that a couple of times, don't really give a shit. I'll say what I want when I want, and I do sorry about the S word.
No, sorry, not at all.
That's the thing. Your filter drops a little bit. Plus,
life's too short to worry.
I think you've gone through the extremes of everything, especially with Charlie and stuff like that. So whatever comes at you now, I'm sure you can handle everything.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. We don't sweat the small stuff now.
Yeah,
it's
completely.
just and I do say to people, you trust your instincts, but just live your life and be happy. And there's always going to be bad people about, but they're in the minority, and you can't judge everyone the same.
You can't let a bad person define the rest of your life, and if you do that, then they've won, and you can't let them win. So
and he's not winning. He's definitely not winning.
Yeah,
Well, I suggest you hold that book up and let the camera see it, and let people see the picture.
Oh, there he is. That's his mugshot.
That's it.
Oh, there you go.
So we have to decide who's playing him in the screenplay.
Yeah, we do, don't we? Yeah,
Some sort of Gollum character.
It's mad.
Wow.
Because it's somebody who you fell in love with, and now it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And that's a complete polar opposite.
But you
isn't
can't
it?
just fall out of love with somebody
But it's
as
also
well.
not the complete opposite, is it? Because you've still got you're dealing with an alter ego of a different of a person.
Yeah,
See,
but
to me,
you
James
probably
Scott
still have that
stares.
connection
Yeah.
but that's the thing. There's a physicality, and they kind of, I don't know. You sort of fell in love with a guy, and you had a child with a guy, and now, then you find the truth. And how do you deal with that thing after the fact? Do you know what I mean? And do you still think about it every day?
Yeah.
Colin? Does it go? It'll have to. It's like losing somebody.
Yeah.
You'll think about
It's
something
not-
at some
it's
point,
not
but because I don't want him to
controlling
have,
my life.
still have his hands on your kind of world.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I still don't have hang-ups about it. I do, and I'm a very positive person, as you probably can tell, and we might have a laugh about it, but I still have nightmares about him, and there are dark days, and I get... myself sometimes, if I give an interview, I'm okay because you guys are so laid back and lovely, but when I've done more serious, like Jeremy Vine or whatever, something like that, I will literally start to shake and I'll be sweating, and because I know certain things do trigger me still, and so it's always going to be there, because there's even more went on than we've had time to talk about today, but you can't go through that and not have scars. That's why the actual third book, so the first book is Playing with Fire, because obviously he was a fireman and we got burnt, and then it's Healing from the Burns, which is about putting our lives back together. The final book's Living with the Scars, because now we're healed, but there's still scars there. There's still scars for you. Yeah. You're forging your way now, and being successful off and doing stuff you love. But Cameron was made bankrupt. She got to be in the 40s.
That's huge for you, because that's a life shift as well. So
it happened, and then for me, it's like I lost absolutely everything. I'd gone from working my entire life and being quite a successful businesswoman to losing absolutely everything and having to go to the job centre and claim job seekers allowance for the first time in my life. They are not nice, particularly at the job centre. It doesn't matter, how much you paid in incomes national insurance, your whole working career. They're not very nice, and it was really hard, because I felt like, as you did as well, you sort of know who you are in the world and you have a certain standing, and suddenly the rug's pulled, and I didn't know who I was anymore. That had happened, and then quickly after that I was diagnosed with cancer, and then I was diagnosed again, and it just felt like things couldn't, get anywhere. And I often think, and I've spoken to oncologists about this, because we both suffered horrifically after James. Was that what? There's no history of kidney cancer or this other cancer, parathyroid cancer in our family. Was it what he did? Was it the stress of that caused it? And that's one thing they can never answer. But to me, I think if it was that caused it, he's hurt beyond compare, really, and hurt us beyond compare. And the fact that he used cancer all the time in his lies and his way to manipulate people and extract money from people just really hits me on a different level.
Yeah.
It's unforgivable, isn't it?
It's unforgivable. We have forgiven him because I think you've got to, because
I was going to ask that.
But he's got to live with himself and look in the mirror.
It's tough though, isn't it?
I haven't forgiven him.
I couldn't do it.
I haven't forgiven him. I can live with it, and I don't hate him to the degree I did, but I don't think I can forgive what he did to Charlie more than anything. I can forgive what he did to me, but he chose to bring a child into this world and leave him when he was at his most littlest and vulnerable without a backward glance. And how can you forgive somebody doing that?
But I just think for somebody to like hate themselves so much that they've got to create this whole false persona of this person that they're not. You've got to really not like yourself.
I think if you think of the bigger picture from your story, I think it's important to think about people like that with empathy, because you need to understand why,
But imagine just getting up one day and thinking, right, well, I'm not being me anymore because he doesn't cut it. I'm going to come. And he actually based James on a real person, but then he wasn't. Person.
So he was, but only in half his life. Yeah. So half his life, he was his alter ego, and then he would go back to his wife and kids.
Yeah.
So he was flipping between the two of them. And did they ever cross over?
I just think he was having Michelin-starred restaurant meals in one life, and then he was going back and probably have a microwave shepherd's pie with his wife.
Turkey Twizzlers.
Turkey Twizzlers, exactly. And it's like sublime to ridiculous.
But it sounds like he didn't. For me, I don't think he hated himself. I think it's the opposite, because he created his own persona. If he hated himself, he wouldn't go through this effort, because he'd be too busy hating himself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he wouldn't have the gumption to kind of get up off his own 2 feet.
He just thought that life hadn't been fair to him because he was worth so much more.
I think it's that. I think he's wrong done by. It's that kind of boo-hoo me, isn't it?
So because you mentioned entitlement before, there's different ways to think about
victim
entitlement.
mentality as well.
Yeah, because that's what I mean.
Something else.
That's a toxic thing. If you feel victimhood with entitlement, that's toxic, because then you try to write your own history,
and then you're getting your own back by creating something else and using it against others.
And it wasn't. So he did obviously decide one day that he was going to be James Scott, but he actually then morphed. So he started off with this new character, but then he morphed. He actually met a guy playing golf, didn't he, prior to meeting me. And took on his persona, and it was his wife that told, because that's who he told his wife he'd got this job when he was working away with, and she said, check out this guy, he'll fill you in. And then when we met the guy, who's based in Chester Street as well,
he's a very successful ex-footballer.
It was when we drove up to his house, the car, so what was his car? It was Aston Martin, and that was the car he chose pictures of, because his mum when she lived in abroad, that was a car that she had at the time, or somebody had, and he was showing us pictures of this guy's trappings and pretending they were part of his. And then it was even to the point of what he drank. He would drink the same, he dressed the same way, and he always met this guy playing golf, thought, oh, I'd like to be you, and then started, but they couldn't have looked physically more different. But he took on his
but
persona,
then the chap he pretended to be, albeit with a different name, when we met up with him, because we've written about him in the book, and he's one of the chapters, he just said, I do remember him, I met him once at a golf day, and he was the most instantly forgettable guy ever. And he said, I do remember, just very unassuming, like one of those guys, very quiet, the complete opposite to who he was
so
when
he
he was
met
James.
him once, but then this guy had taken on,
Do you think that's a reason? Because he's forgettable. So he wants to be remembered. And I think it's that. I think that's been him from day one as a kid. I think he's been building up to that. He's just had the balls to go and do it. He's had that little push, hasn't he?
But it's like I said in the beginning, he's a very, very, I don't think academically he did that great at school, but he's a very highly intelligent guy. And if he'd used it for good, I really think he could have done some amazing things. And he wouldn't have had to be
No.
pretend to be someone. He could have actually accomplished a lot in his own life, but he didn't, unfortunately.
He could have had the Aston Martin. You guys could have had a good business, successful, and it could have gone somewhere.
Actually, that's what the police said. The businesses were running, that the property business was running as a business. So he actually, in some ways, was he trying to make it work so he could carry on the line?
Yeah, but that was because he was running my houses. Then he was bringing ones in that didn't exist.
But there were some real people that was bringing on board as well, and he had adverts out on Cash for Kids. So there were like adverts running on Metro Radio and all sorts, wasn't there?
But that's what Ryan was, because they got Ryan, my husband, he's South African. He's got a nice voice, and they had him doing all the adverts on Metro Radio, and that really upset him because he felt he was colluding in, because the Metro Radio never got paid.
No,
there were never people that, and it's like, you know, he's just pulling everyone into his world. Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask any more questions because I could ask you 1,000 more.
I know, it's just read the book.
I'm going to read the book. I'm going to read the book.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's the podcast's good as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The podcast's good. It's with Vicky Patterson, and she did a really good job, I think. Didn't she?
Yes, that kind of, but it doesn't really delve into it as much as the book does.
It doesn't. I think the book's the thing.
One more question, because of this is just sort of remember the thing I was going to ask as well. Would you sit down with them if you get a chance to, if you could?
Yeah. I don't, like, there's a lifetime injunction, so he can't get in contact with me, but I did actually say, so when we did the Love Bomb podcast, they wanted us to have an episode when we would sit down together, whether it be me go into prison to see him, and I was actually open to do that, but he wouldn't entertain it. He wouldn't get back in touch with anyone. So I would, because I just want to ask him why.
You've always said you want to sit across from him and just look him in the eye and say,
that's what I wanted to do.
Ask why.
When we went to court at the time, that's what I wanted to do on the laptop in lockdown and sentencing. I've always just wanted to look him in the eyes and sort of say, I see you, I know who you are now, and you can't hurt me anymore, but I've never been given that.
You won't let that happen, because that is a full stop at the end of the story for him.
But I kind of feel I need that.
Yeah.
And it could be that I'm walking down Granger Street one day or something and I bump into him, and that would be enough. Even if I didn't even say anything, I just looked him in the eyes and he knows that I know. That would probably do it.
I think for me, it's like, it's just knowing who he really is, like truly, all masks off who he really is. Can he sit down and can he just say, this is who I am? Like, talk to you on a one-to-one basis without any kind of, other egos.
We held on to the facts. A lot of people said he's mentally ill and that's why he's done it. And I believe there is some mental health issues there. There's got to be to go to the level. It has to be. But they had a full psychiatric evaluation done for sentencing, and the judge said there was nothing in it that excused any of his behaviour. He knew exactly what he was doing. He chose to do what he did, and he didn't care about the consequences. And he really chucked the book at him, to be honest, in court. But yeah.
How about you, Karen? Would you sort of sit with him? Would you or would you be angry? Would you?
You give a right mouthful, wouldn't you?
Throw one of your books on him.
I don't. I think I'm at a point now that, obviously it was hard for years, but because it is, 8 years ago now since he...
Yeah, 2017 he ran off,
I'd probably... I'm an odd one. I'd probably go out for a drink with him now, because I've just... So much time's passed and the money's gone. And,
don't you pay for the drinks, will you?
Well, I would be, no doubt. But I probably would, because I think he would actually... I think there's another good book in there, actually. But
I don't think
I
I
would like to ask
him
him a few questions. I think I've made peace with it, because I just think holding on to it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I think the good that's coming out of it with the work we're doing with Women's Aid, and the fact that I'm now doing something later in life that I'd wanted to do my whole life and never had the guts to do, is brought some good out of it. So actually, in some ways, I'd quite like to shake his hand, but I would like my 100 grand back, please, if you're listening.
I think that's long gone now.
Match it and give it a Woman's Aid.
Exactly.
So that kind of supersedes the thing that's, you've kind of been hurt with in the past, isn't it? Because you're kind of happy in a comfortable space now.
Yeah.
You could just actually sit down. I think you'd be more intrigued about who he is and get a few little answers, because it would help with, obviously, your research and understanding who he is as well.
And the thing is, he's a hated character now. If people read the book, he's not a likeable character. The things he's done and the way he's hurt people, he's not going to, if he did choose to sit down and give his side of the story, he's not going to be bad. He's only going to come out on a better light if he gives some... Well, I was ill, or I was sad, or I know what I did was wrong, or whatever he says, he's never going to look worse than he does now. So he's only going to benefit from him, but I just think he's too much of a coward to actually face up to it.
I just keep thinking, like Kaiser Soze here, sort of, he's limping at the end and then he starts to walk straight. Like, does he know it's a lie? Is he orchestrating the lie, or has he become it?
Yeah.
I mean, because of who he was, he doesn't like, because it's boring being him. Has he become that?
I don't even think people.
Has it enhanced his kind of own personality? Do you know what I mean? And that's who he really is now.
Me personally, you'd know better. I don't even think he'd be able to answer that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I think there's a blurring of lines after a long time of being a liar like that.
It's not a switch. It's not
a switch.
This person, that person.
There's a gradual step or descent into that
and that,
sort of
I
thing.
think what he would take, see, what he always wanted to be seen as was a hero.
Yeah.
And I think, like, looking around here, it says local heroes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of his stuff was based in Sunderland. He wanted to be seen as a Sunderland local hero. So I think the fact that we're sitting here on a podcast called Local Heroes and Not Him would sting him a bit.
Yeah, he wouldn't like that.
But there was just things. See, with the book, we put a lot of humour in it because a lot of stuff that happened was quite funny. For example, he had a broken back and he was always in pain with his back.
Well, it was his back he'd broken saving that little
saving
boy.
a little boy, jumping backwards out of a building and saving his life. It's amazing. No, he turned it on the waltzers.
No, it was the teacup ride.
Oh, was it? Well,
his wife, because I said his bad
you've got to
back.
laugh when you hear that. 'cause
It was his bad back, and then she said, "Oh yeah, he did the. I think it was South Shields or something. The teacup rides with the kids." I was like,
dressed up as a Disney princess.
That's my point, though. Like, I mean, that is. He had to remove himself to such a other far end of the truth.
It just and the fireman's outfit. When I said was that his dad's outfit, then no, he bought that off eBay because it was to spice up their sex life. They've got this, and then there's so she actually had to go
down the pole and
she'd gone under the bed. She'd gone under the bed to check for the outfit, and of course it wasn't there because he'd been wearing it pretending to be a fireman, and it's just. I mean, we did actually have a laugh when we got got our stories together.
He's going through the doctor. He's going through. He's going through all these different outfits.
Yeah, totally.
It's mad though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Absolutely. It's so comical, the reality of the life. And then it's like the James Bond version, isn't it?
See, I just don't understand how he had all these... when you're having text conversation, you've got loads of people in a group chat. Who were all these people with the group chats
15 mobile phones.
Exactly, but he must have had
I've seen him
Donna and stuff like that.
Well, that's it, and I've seen him in conversation. So he's been on iMessage and it's been a group chat, and when it's bubbling, you can see. And I would be sitting next to him as all the messages came through. So unless I'm not very tech savvy, but unless you can put timers on messages coming through, or he had other people sitting actually messaging and pretending. But this is the level he went to. So. It's not that we were seeing him on the phone and just assuming he was talking to someone. You could hear the person on the other end of the phone. And we met his mum's business advisor, and I met the wedding planner. We met friends of his. These people didn't exist.
Well, we were going into business in a nightclub, Pravda.
Yeah, down on the quayside.
Down the quayside, and we met the owner. We met the owner there, and we looked around it, and we met his business manager, all people. But the architect, but the police said afterwards we were never in that. We were never inside Pravda because the estate agent said the keys had never been given out. We've got photographs proving we were inside.
It was the police,
and it wasn't the owner. He'd hired somebody to pretend to be the owner.
But they'd shown the owner photos of him and me, and he said, "I've never seen these people before." The police actually said, "So you were buying this property, but you never went inside it." I said, "Oh, we did several times." "Well, you can't have done." I said, "No, we did." And he said, "Well, you can't do it because we've spoken to the estate agents. They've only got 2 sets of keys. One they've always had, the other one they've signed out for British Gas. We're doing some work outside. And that's the only time the keys have ever gone out. There's been no viewings on the property." So the police said, "You can't have done." I went, "Well, explain this then." And I actually showed them the photos on my phone of us in Pravda. And one of them's Charlie sat in his little car seat on the dusty bar because there was a bottle of wine left next to it. And we put it on Facebook or whatever for post. So how do you explain that? How did we get in? And the only thing the police could come up with, that he must have bunged somebody at British Gas some money to let him have the keys for
But then
a short
the guy
time.
pretending to be the owner, he'd obviously hired someone.
But the owner had never met him, so he'd hired somebody. It was an Asian gentleman. It was an Asian gentleman we met, so he must have found someone that kind of fitted.
Similar.
Like matched the profile of the...
And got him to come in to pretend, because they were going to go play squash together.
You have to
weren't they?
research that. You have to research who the owner was.
Oh, he was keeping
And the
busy.
background.
A lot of effort.
The owner was telling us about owning all these. He was telling us about owning Annabelle's in Sunderland, and he was telling us all this backstory of all these clubs and stuff he'd owned.
Which I think was legit, wasn't
Well, I think it was legit, but it wasn't
the
the actual man. It was the researched, yeah.
This is
absolutely bonkers.
This is the part in the TV series when it's your story and then it flicks to the other person who kind of who's getting dressed in the morning.
That's how it's been written.
That's exactly the whole thing, isn't it? That's because you want to see the other side.
Yeah.
Who is involved on that side, coming to fill in the story gaps.
But that's what the screenplay that's been written. It shows it from my life with him, and then it shows it from his life with his wife and what she was going through.
Where it's his alter ego sitting in the back of the car,
and almost like
he's having conversations or in the mirror and different things. It's very cleverly done.
Yeah.
That's great because it's a really good way of doing it because it's an interesting way of we all think but we don't know, so let's visit that and let's see what that looks like.
We've got this job now. We have to suggest actors to play the parts.
That's not easy, is it? Yeah. So
I mean, obviously Ryan wants Chris Hemsworth for him.
Yeah, well,
I think it needs to be local actors.
Just doing a cameo.
Be nice though.
That's mad. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of how many comments we're going to get on this podcast when it goes out. Questions.
I mean, yours has been the most popular on Storyline.
I had a look the other day. It's had over 700,000 hits, hasn't it?
700,000 on TikTok.
Well, there's a guy that actually watched, I don't know if it was on TikTok or on Instagram, so he'd seen me doing that and he contacted you about writing this book.
What we did, because we self-published our book, because at the time we were going to go and try and get a traditional publishing deal, but because we wanted to coincide with when the podcast came out with the BBC, we self-published and we didn't really know, and it went on to do amazingly well. And we got particularly ripped off before them by some publishing companies that we talked to. And Ryan and I then decided all my books moving forward, we would learn how to do it all ourselves. So we've actually got a small publishing company now and we help bring other people's stories to life. And I've had so many people contact and say, I want you to ghostwrite my story. I want you to help me publish because we just liked you. We've seen you on the documentary. We've seen you on YouTube. You're just a nice family and nice, decent people. So literally our little publishing company is me and Ryan and we've just been inundated and it's too much to do. And I think, well, that's showing that the goods come in from...
Yeah, it is. We get a lot of... I mean, I had one the other day, didn't I? think she Barnsley, setting up a women's circle to support women that have been in difficult relationships and would I work with her. Yeah. So it's ongoing all the time and it's positive all the time. So I think the reason it gets a lot of hits and people watch it is because it's unusual.
I personally think it's... If there's a guy that's actually going to shave down there and put makeup on to make it look bruised and gauze and limp along like a wounded soldier and show that's another level of deception.
It is,
I think it's just who does that, and I think that's what's mind-boggling. And you know, because that won't cost him a lot of money to do that, but who would think to do that? You know, and
I'm not. You know, he showed me documentation that after, so I know you have a vasectomy. You've got to wait till you put in so many tests and all that. So we waited, and then he showed me the documentation, you know, like, that's great. And then 2 months later, I fell pregnant. Yeah. I, at the time, was horrified because I assumed he'd think I cheated on him, which he would. And he was just so lovely, wasn't he? Oh, no, I know you wouldn't. And you know, he said 1 in 200. Well, it's not. I think it's 1 in 2,000. But now when you know it's 1 in 2,000. But I didn't know a lot about vasectomies, and never in your mind you're going to think the man you're sitting next to is going to go to those lengths to manipulate you into falling pregnant.
The CPS actually wanted Coleen to go down the line. Obviously he was charged before the counts of fraud and falsifying Charlie's birth certificate, but the CPS, which they won't push on something unless they're pretty sure for conviction, really wanted to go down the statutory rape route as well, because really what he did was Coleen would never have had an intimate relationship with him unprotected if she'd have thought there was a chance
consent.
That's it. I remember saying that.
It wasn't you.
Because she'd had such dangerous pregnancies and been very poorly, she would never have taken that risk. And he knew all that, but she thought she was safe, and he had a nil sperm count. So in their eyes, that actually was.
That's at the time, but it's not, because it was consensual, and they said you have to almost compare it to somebody that's got HIV and knowingly having HIV and not telling partners about it. There has been instances when people have been convicted or gone to court at least for rape, isn't it? It's actually rape, and they said it's similar to that, because if you're lying and you're getting somebody involved in a relationship that they may not do, but so they did, which would have got a harsher prison sentence, and it was the police said to me about it, didn't they? And then CPS, because even on the day we went to court, the barrister said, I'm disappointed that you didn't go down that route, but in my head, I don't want my son's name ever being associated with that word. And yeah, I know legally it could have been that, but to me,
Well, it was,
yeah.
but I understand completely why you didn't.
Yeah, I just didn't
at the
feel
time,
comfortable.
I
I'm not letting him off the hook, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my lovely son's name ever being in this. Yeah.
But it,
So he could have had a much more serious.
But when we heard that word, we were like,
sentence.
well, it wasn't rape because you were in love with him. But actually, it was because you would never have had unprotected sex with a man knowing you could fall pregnant.
Well, it did. It actually came out. A lot of the comments afterwards were, especially after the documentary, was surely is this not classed as sexual abuse and blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking, yeah, because we didn't touch on that in the documentary, we did on the book. But yeah, the police did actually suggest that, but I chose. You wanted me to, didn't you? But
I just thought the CPS they were actually pushing for it, and I think it would have been quite sort of seminal moment for the future for the other women. But it was too much for you at the time.
Yeah.
But I think the fact we've written about it in the book and sort of raised awareness has helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
But it was just a bit too much for you. Yeah.
The truth is out there, the story's out there, but you don't want that on Charlie's kind of record forever.
Exactly.
Because then it's going to be an identity issue for him as well.
Yeah.
So.
And ultimately, he's my greatest concern. He's the priority in my life. And I'm always going to protect him up and above everybody else. And I was happy with 6 years. I mean, he only served 3 of them, but that's not a bad sentence, to be honest. We were pleased with that at the time, weren't we?
Yeah.
I'd have been more pleased if he'd come out reformed and not done it again and not changed his ways, which I don't believe he has.
I think the fact that he was doing it on remand and he was contacting women and he's probably just learnt some new skills in prison, to be honest. Yeah. I just think what we've done has made it more difficult for him because we
made it more difficult and we've helped a lot of people along the way and that's good. That's good enough for me. I didn't need any more than that.
I feel a bit guilty. How do we transition from this conversation?
We've got a menu of silly questions.
We just have to do it. We just have to do it.
I mean,
Let's just do it.
I can't believe you came in blind to this conversation.
Well, I have to.
Yeah, I mean, Chris gets guests on that I haven't got a clue who they are, so it's quite fun when you're just sort of getting to know somebody in front of a microphone. And did I do that justice when I kind of did a little synopsis this morning for you about the story? Did it work? Because I was right on the boiler, wasn't I?
Yeah, I mean, Dan told us a bit of that in about 2 minutes. So obviously we're at an hour 40 right now.
Oh God, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But I was right but I was right on the fact and what triggered it. So I'm really pleased. The story kind of it kind of it does ring true, and the truth gets to the points. And I was right on the point, so I'm like, good, I'm pleased I'm right on the point. This is not worse than when it's like, actually, don't know, that wasn't the first time. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't the trigger point. That wasn't this. You're like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't get the point in the story, but I did. I'm quite pleased to see it.
Well done.
You did
Thank you very much.
You got a pat on the back, lad. You did it.
Thank you. All right, and ladies, right, we have got a menu with some.
Oh God, I'm starving.
I'll tell you what. You did drop an early comment about food that you didn't get. That it was.
the duck.
confit
Yes.
duck. The
That was a
confit
duck.
duck.
See, we have touched
Well, I'll
on
tell you
food.
what.
You've had
Hang on.
champagne and fish and chips, all the Cadburys.
All the Cadburys.
All the Cadburys.
I'm going to do the start. I'm going to do the menu, but we're going to have to do it in a different way here.
Come on then.
What was on the wedding menu?
Oh gosh. Well, there was duck
great
confit, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
What was the starter?
The starter, it was a seafood starter. I think it might have been going down the traditional old prawn cocktail route, to be honest.
Oh, right.
I
Cool,
loved
yeah.
it.
Yeah, prawn
I
cocktail
love a prawn
starter.
cocktail.
Yeah, okay.
And then the dessert was chocolate. I think of chocolate fondant pudding because that's
Right,
my
okay.
favourite. See, I'm starving now.
So what was the main? The confit duck was the main, was it? Did you mention
Oh no, I
the
was just
confit
looking
duck?
at the menu.
We don't have any of these things.
Yeah,
If you look at
I don't know if it was a confit
Somebody
duck.
close the coffee duck on a tray.
Oh, she's also just disappointed.
Confit duck pie. Something like that. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, this is more of an interesting way of doing our menu is to go, what was the wedding menu? I think we'll have to do that. So, yeah. And who chose the wedding menu as well? Did he choose it or you guys?
We got options. So we got the emails from Wynyard Hall and Malcolm Mills, the wedding bloke.
Didn't exist, but
I know.
So I can just see Martin Short, our father of the bride, in my head now.
Yeah.
But the best thing was that when I met the wedding planner, Donna, she was saying, oh, well, I work closely with Malcolm Mills, didn't she? And then, so she was clued up on all the lies as well before that she was feeding me. So, but they gave us quite an option, didn't they?
I do think though with Donna,
we were sat in the office at work. I'm sorry, Karen, for interrupting. We were sat in the office at work, pros and cons about meals that nobody was ever going to bloody eat. And we're going, well, what about my mum? Oh, she's not that keen on that. And I don't know, but everyone likes chocolate. We'll go with chocolate for the dessert. And he knew. And then we'd be backwards and forwards with him saying, do you think your family are like this? And
I just think
nobody was ever going to eat this.
With Donna, the first time Coleen met with Donna, because James apparently had known her for years and she was his wedding planner, so they'd done this whole thing where Coleen had sort of said what she wanted from the wedding, and James and Donna said, well, what's the budget? So very sort of film moment. So James had written something on a piece of paper and pushed it across the table. And like how much money that he was going to put on the wedding. She picked it and went, oh yeah, we can afford everything there. I mean, what the hell did that say? You know, no, it'd been like, oh.
Just go with it.
And even,
what did it say? Gullible bitch.
Because
what did it say?
When I was pregnant with Charlie, my waters broke at 23 weeks. And pregnancy not viable until you hit 24 weeks, so it was really, really scary time. And waters actually broke on bonfire night, so I was on my own in a hospital. You rocked up, didn't you, with Ryan, and my mum turned up, and I'm calling James all the time, and it took him forever to get there, and it looked bleak. You know, they didn't hold out much hope for Charlie, did they? And then he was full of excuses because it was busiest night of the year and everyone was being idiots, bonfire night and throwing fireworks.
He came in his gear.
He came in his gear into the hospital because he just come straight off and...
He'd probably come off the job with the wife at the point.
And that was so... it was just ridiculous, wasn't it?
But then again, it sort of played into his narrative because it happened. He just had the luck of the devil because... that had happened when he'd gone into labour and he waters broken on bonfire night. So it gave him a really good excuse why he couldn't come.
Well, no, but that's what was going to lead into the food. So because of my waters breaking, and then they let me home eventually, but then I had to go back to hospital 2 or 3 times a week for scans and swabs and all this, and I was on total bed rest. And that's when he proposed, didn't he? And because I was on bed rest, he was going to sort all the wedding out. So he that was the control factor of it. So even with Donna, I was sort of surplus to requirements on any of the wedding stuff. I got to pick the food and the dress and all that. Yeah. But even when he proposed, he'd spoken to Karen, to my mum, to my girls, and got the go-ahead of all them before. So I almost felt like I couldn't say no. I was pregnant. We were having a baby, and it seemed... well, you know, it's the next... But he didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
And he knew he never could get married, so, yeah.
Well, the food-related item again, question. Are there any foods that you can't eat now because of a reminder of him?
Yeah, I know one.
What?
Pulled pork.
Oh, God, yeah. No, yeah. Oh, I used to like pulled pork.
I know,
as well.
it's lovely.
We used to go to a quiz at the White Hills
So he's
pub.
ruined pulled pork.
We used to go to a quiz at the White Hills pub in Chester Street, and we were called up the creek without a paddle, weren't we? That was the name of our quiz. So there was James and me, and you and Ryan used to go, and my mum and her friend Yvonne. And one time we had to leave early because he got sick because somebody was eating pulled pork, and he was making like these almost gagging.
It was because we were losing he was useless at the quiz, and Ryan and I were good at quizzing, you know, and he kept, we were laughing at him because he kept getting questions wrong, and he couldn't stand to not be the big I am the whole time. So suddenly he had to get up and leave because the people at the next table were eating pulled pork, and it was making him physically sick and giving him flashbacks because apparently pulled pork smells exactly like burning flesh.
Yeah, he said it reminded him of when he smelled burning flesh from fires.
Yeah.
Right, and I was like, firstly, keep your voice down because they're having the tea. They don't really need to hear that. And secondly, I was like, oh my God. And then since then, we couldn't eat pulled pork, could we? Because I think
I think I could have pushed, to be fair.
I don't think I've eaten it since. I don't think I have. But
because it's one of those things, you know, you cozy up on a Saturday night, and it's a thing that you came together, you're sharing a dessert or something, 2 spoons. Because there's got to be one of those things that you can't kind of go back to because of that kind of thing. I mean, the pulled pork's a good one. Like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Because there's a story. You know?
I'm like, gobsmacked.
I can't really think of anything.
He was always about jam sandwiches. Do you remember?
I never liked jam sandwiches anyway.
Yeah.
I like a jam sandwich.
Pea beans,
Yeah.
No bad one.
I can't eat brownies the way he used to do.
Yeah.
He used to bring me brownies all the time because he said there was a guy there was a a woman that came in the fire station whose husband had had cancer, and she used to bake brownies to raise money for cancer research or whatever. And he used to buy all these brownies and bring them back, and they were nice, weren't they?
Oh, lovely,
They were
yeah.
lovely. And then if I wanted, I could put in requests for different flavours, and he'd tell this lovely little woman that came in the fire station, and she'd make them. Then he'd buy the whole lot because he was such a kind guy. Turned out his missus was making them all, and he was bringing me his wife's brownies.
We did feel guilty when we
felt so awful.
putting
So I
lots
must
of
admit,
requests in.
I don't think I've had a. Charlie likes brownies, but I don't think I've had a brownie since then either.
Yeah.
Mind you, those Turkish delight ones she made were lush.
They were. They were. I mean, I'll
They
give
were
her a
another
Joe.
level, they were nice.
She was a cracking baker.
Message her on Facebook, by the way.
I know, but she knows because
I don't know if this is inappropriate, but can I get some of those Turkish legs?
Well, she could have. She could have a little cottage industry with us.
she did.
Amazing.
She did make good brownies.
Right.
But yeah.
Go on, go with the last question.
Question. I mean, this is going to drop. This is going to drop off a cliff. This, Coleen, what's your Greg's order?
I love a cheese and onion pasty. Love a cheese and onion pasty, and I like a Bavarian slice.
What's that Bavarian
It's
slice
a
again?
posh custard slice. It's like your
Right.
normal vanilla.
Yeah.
It's got a layer of jam at the bottom. You know, top tier. That's definitely it for me.
How about
I
yourself,
mean, I like
Jack?
everything in Greg's, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like those big chew and a crunch baguettes they do.
Right.
Though you end up with
Yeah.
half of it down your bra.
Yeah.
I do. This is very controversial. I actually like the vegan sausage rolls.
Lots of people
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Believe it or
Because
not.
the proper sausage
Is it the pulled
rolls.
pork thing? Can you not?
No, it's not. But the traditional ones, they're just too greasy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they leave that like wet spot, that damp spot on the paper bag.
Yeah.
But so I can't.
No one likes a wet spot.
No. So I like the vegan sausage rolls, but our mum, who's about a size 8, is she? Our mum.
She'll thank you for that one.
She'll
yeah.
eat 4 Greg's sausage rolls in one go. She loves them. She's like addicted. But her boyfriend always says that's a G spot. Take her to Greg's.
Right. We've not heard that one.
You can have that one.
He said, I'm going to take you on G spot. So we go G spot Greg's. Yeah.
I don't think I'll
Keeps
call
her
Greg's
happy.
anything different from now on.
Spot.
Just popping out a G-spot for ham and peas pudding study.
Thanks for nickname, wasn't it? Oh, ladies, it's been an
Thank you so
absolute
much.
pleasure.
I could talk to you forever. I really
Right,
could.
so it's been a laugh.
Oh, it's been good. This is cathartic as well, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
it's good
also.
fun, yeah.
It's having a laugh,
If we'd have
yeah.
wound back all those years and thought we'd be sat all
Yeah.
chatting about in Greg's
I
orders
think
and having a laugh.
if we'd have thought of any of this would have happened, the books and everything, and the podcast and the documentary, the screenplay, it would have just been bonkers because we were
Yeah.
in the lowest place ever. But that's what I'm saying, just stick with life because it all makes sense.
And life
eventually.
goes on, doesn't it?
Before we wrap up then, do you want to do a shout out about your book? I know you've held it up, but do you want to...
Right, so... Yeah, this is Playing with Fire.
That camera there.
There we
go
go.
on, go for it.
So this is Playing with Fire, the first book we wrote, and we're currently on the third one, and it's all about... Half the book is about James, and then after the unveiling of his true personality and his true name, then the second half's Greg. So it's like we allude to stuff in the first half, and the second half you get warts and all what happened. And,
Well, once we knew who he was, then it just changes to Greg.
And a portion of every book sold goes to Woman's Aid.
Yeah.
It's on audiobook as well, and then the second book's out as well on both.
Yeah, so
audiobook
it's on paperback ebook, Kindle Unlimited, Audible, so you can get it anywhere you like to read. Yeah,
yeah, and it's doing really well, isn't it?
it's doing really well. Yeah, which
Very
is
pleased
good.
with it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, I look forward to reading it.
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, you
Thank
can
you.
have that one.
Yeah, there you go.
It's on
Save
our shelf.
carrying it around in your hands.
Oh,
haven't
that's
you?
it.
That was shelf copy. That's the studio copy.
Oh, you've got one up there. You've got two of them now.
I thought that was it. I thought we took it down from the shelf. Say we've got two.
Oh,
So you can
yes.
both read it. You can both read it and then
Okay.
pass it
Can we
on.
into each other?
Good. You never guess what happens next. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, ladies.
Thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome.
Thank you.